nothing up here that really means to me unless you're going to fight me here now.
I don't think that Jake would have enough time, seeing as he's already undersized. He's not a real heavyweight, and this is Anthony fucking Joshua we're talking about.
Take a punch, really. If he takes a big punch from Jake Paul, if he gets hurt in any way by Jake Paul, if he doesn't absolutely ice Jake Paul within a few rounds of this 8-round scheduled bout, well then it really affects his credibility.
Tensions rose during the press conference as Anthony Joshua stepped toward Jake Paul, feeling a slight, and the heavyweight champion let anger surface while addressing Paul's comments. The fiery media moment became simply the spark that pushed the unfolding story between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua forward. Analysts stepped in, exploring the dangers and stakes tied to this showdown. Renowned mentor Barry McGuigan delivered notably fierce remarks, revealing the real worry seasoned fighters might feel when facing someone like Jake Paul. After years beside powerful punchers, McGuigan notes that one solid shot can instantly shift a battle's flow, exposing just how risky this clash might truly ever be.
Some people are saying, AJ's grabbing the bag. There's nothing wrong with that because anybody else, if they got offered that kind of money, they would do it. So, yep. And some people are suggesting he might damage his legacy. Where do you sit with the decision of him taking that fight? And it's a professional 8-round fight as well.
Yes, it's a highly dangerous fight for Jake Paul. I don't know what he's doing, unless they have done some sort of caveat or some sort of agreement that he says he's going to go easy on him, or he's not going to go flat out. But I've been tossing this up and down in my mind and trying to figure how and under God, when he had agreed to fight someone like Tank Davis, who is, several divisions below him. That's more like what Jake Paul does. And then he goes from there to fighting Anthony Joshua. I mean, just look at what happened to Francis Ngannou, who's a big, athletic, tough guy and had gone 12 rounds with Tyson Fury and given him a real ding-dong. And then he gets absolutely obliterated in a round and a half against Joshua. That shows you, despite the fact that he's been knocked out since by Daniel Dubois, who could knock out anybody, by the way, in any weight division or in any era of the heavyweight division. He's such a powerful guy; he could knock anybody out if he hits them properly. But it just seems utter madness. And
Wade, host of the Wade Concept podcast, shares that Jake Paul's hidden advantage for the Anthony Joshua showdown has now surfaced. He describes how Paul has been working with several heavyweights to mirror Joshua's stature, reach, and ring wisdom. These rounds let Jake absorb true heavyweight force while refining his rhythm and approach. By pushing against fighters who reflect Joshua's traits, Paul is shaping himself for the distinct demanding tests he will confront under the lights.
Anthony Joshua fight, if you're Jake Paul, who hasn't fought someone in the top, realistically, the top 50. I know Tommy Fury is ranked in the top 50, but anyone that is a top 50 fighter, even in your weight class, let alone a top 10, top 5 heavyweight in Anthony Joshua, who was a 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. Can you get prepared for a guy like that if you brought in, let's just say, a deity, freaking Zeus, Hercules, whoever, to prepare you? Could you do it? I don't think that Jake would have enough time, seeing as he's already undersized. He's not a real heavyweight, and this is Anthony fucking Joshua we're talking about. But I will say there were rumors going around that Jake was not taking this fight as seriously as he needed to. That Jake was dilly-dallying, flying to go see F1 in Miami after his press conference, and then going to see his girl all the way in the Netherlands if she's trying to qualify for, I think, the Olympics or something else. There was this post from his girlfriend. I don't know if, again, this was in the Netherlands or where it was at, or maybe this is an old picture, but Jake flying around the world when he has a fight in about 4 weeks is probably not the greatest look, and it doesn't seem to make it look like he's taking it as serious as he needs to, locked away in the gyms of Puerto Rico. Now, again, that could have been a different picture. That could have been something else, but that's pretty shocking to see. With that being said, I want to push back on that because I do think Jake is taking this as seriously as he absolutely needs to, because this is not only the toughest fight of his career, it's the most dangerous to the longevity of his career, to his health and well-being. And so to do something like that, you need to bring in the best help possible to get ready. We already heard that Jake Paul was preparing for Anthony Joshua by sparring the guy that Anthony Joshua was about to fight in Cassius Chaney. This gentleman right here, who was 24-3 from B-More, aka the DMV, and apparently is a top 100 heavyweight, even though it doesn't say he's actually a top 100 heavyweight, but that was what he was being marketed as by
Spencer Oliver, a former professional boxer and analyst, steps toward the upcoming Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul matchup with a perspective shaped by experience. Speaking before a panel of experts, Oliver hints that this showdown carries weight far beyond competitive stakes. It carries a symbolic meaning for the sport itself. He recalls Muhammad Ali's era, noting how Ali embraced unusual fights that stirred public fascination and drew crowds beyond typical boxing followers. According to Oliver, if Joshua chooses to face Jake Paul, he would be moving into a moment that echoes Ali, where entertainment, spectacle, and professional sport collide. The matchup could pull in fresh viewers, revealing the sport to people who rarely watch traditional heavyweight battles while pushing Joshua to maintain clarity in a rare scenario. The fight also becomes a cultural beat in boxing, linking longtime fans with a newly digital audience. Oliver's comparison to Muhammad Ali's unconventional fights shows how high-profile clashes can widen viewership and spark global attention. By stepping into this space, Joshua is reaching a broader demographic, including younger fans who follow Jake Paul mainly through social platforms. This crossover surge can lift the sport's visibility, potentially raising revenue streams and sponsorship possibilities. Analysts believe the cultural ripple could match the fight itself, framing it as a defining moment in the continuing evolution of professional boxing.
Goes in, pops him a few times in the face, walks out of 150 million quid. No one will remember the fact he fought Jake Paul. They remember the fact he knocked Klitschko out in Wembley in 2017.
Totally agree with that.
So I'm kind of, whilst I don't like it, and I don't like the way that Jake Paul gravitates to these brilliant athletes and like a moth sucks the life out of them because he gets a benefit of association, because I think they deserve all the association. But he is a and there was opportunity there, isn't there?
Listen, commercially, of course it works because it'll be huge and there'll be a load of money on the table. And for Anthony Joshua, it's like sort of, he's going to get rewarded very well with no risk, minimal risk, no risk at all. He's going to go in there and he may then put all this stuff to bed with Jake Paul and calling out all these different champions, etc., etc. So, of course it works. And when you're talking about, the credibility that Joshua's going to get, he's not going to get none now, but are people going to remember that? Of course they're not. Like, when he goes on to do what he does, didn't Muhammad Ali have some sort of strange fight in the middle of his career? Didn't he box? Yeah, he did. He boxed some non-boxing guy and whatnot. Like, people don't remember that. That's what I'm saying. Look, us as boxers, we don't remember stuff like that.
It was replicated in Rocky. So, he did a version of Fighting Thunder Lips, didn't he? So we all...
Veteran boxing analyst Gareth A. Davies speaks with concern about the looming danger surrounding this fight. He points to the sizable weight gap and the divide in experience between the fighters, arguing that the matchup pushes the boundaries of what remains safe inside a professional ring. Davies stresses that a fully competitive clash could turn hazardous, especially if Joshua connects with clean, forceful shots early in the fight. From his viewpoint, although the spectacle of a social media figure challenging a proven heavyweight is intriguing, the physical risks make the idea uncertain. Experts like Davies warn that governing bodies and promoters must closely evaluate the safety measures in place, as the outcome of a misjudged bout could be severe for both competitors.
So, as I am with you, there is a danger in this fight. The odds are, Joshua's 1-12, obviously. Jake Paul is 6-1, to win this fight in a two-horse race, in which this is a guy who lost to Tommy Fury, Tyson Fury's brother, in an 8-round fight, who, for me, I wrote that it would damage his legacy a week ago. It will damage his legacy for several reasons. If the Deontay Wilder fight never emerges, which it looks like it isn't, I've been calling for that fight for ages. If those two got in a ring together, it's still a massive fight. It's a dangerous fight to sanction, in my view. Sets the wrong precedent. It is 10-ounce gloves. It is a boxing match. It's not an exhibition. This isn't a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. This is one of the most dangerous finishers in the world, who is probably 5 levels above Jake Paul and a weight division above him. I think it's irresponsible to let those two in a ring together in a proper boxing match. That's my view. It doesn't damage his bank balance, but if he earns $70 million for this, are we really...
Boxing analysts Angelo and Josh deliver a layered, technical read on the looming matchup. Studying both fighters through the lens of experience, skill, and natural gifts, they argue that Jake Paul, though undeniably bold, is nowhere near the tier of elite heavyweights like Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder. Joshua and Wilder belong to a rare circle of fighters whose timing, precision, and explosive force can alter the direction of a fight in an instant. Angelo and Josh underline that such traits grow from years of relentless training and true physical advantage, qualities that smaller or less seasoned boxers simply cannot mirror. They explain that courage alone never equals mastery. And while Paul's belief in himself stands out, it cannot replace the deep preparation and instinct that seasoned heavyweights carry into the ring.
I just don't think that he could compete at the highest level, and I don't think he'd beat the top 5, top 6 guys. But that in that weight class is where he'd be at, like say 180, 188 or 189, somewhere around there is where he'd probably compete. There's not a lot of talent there though, so he might be pretty good in those weight classes. Him competing in the heavyweight division against like Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua or anybody else, no, he gets annihilated. I'm very surprised he signed this fight.
I was shocked he signed this fight. I texted my buddy Bo because Bo follows boxing really well, and I texted him. I was like, dude, we might see a death. And he said the same thing. He's like, I cannot believe he agreed to that fight. But the numbers, the numbers that are, nobody knows the true payouts. They're saying it's around $200 million that they're splitting evenly. So they're getting about $100 million each. He said that it was $267 million. So I don't know who you believe or don't believe, or it could be they're splitting 200 and the 67 delta, they had to pay DAZN because Anthony Joshua has a contract with DAZN. And this fight's going to be on Netflix. DAZN.
It's DAZN.
So they, which makes, how the hell?
Please stop saying DAZN, okay?
DAZN.
That's like Saint Benoit, okay?
Where's the O in DAZN?
It's DAZN.
Well, there's no O or no E at the end. But so they had to buy. They basically had to buy Anthony Joshua his permission to.
Henry, a boxing analyst, believes the danger in this clash does not fall on just one side. While many discussions center on the threat Jake Paul faces when entering the ring with a seasoned champion, the analysts remind us that Anthony Joshua also carries real risk. Even a brief slip in focus or execution could open a window for Paul, potentially shaping Joshua's reputation despite an expected win. They point out that for a fighter of Joshua's stature, any result that falls short of a flawless performance might be viewed as harmful rather than validating. The analysis highlights that the fight is nowhere near a guaranteed showcase for the champion and that both men shoulder meaningful stakes regarding reputation, public perception, and lasting legacy.
The reason this creates immense risk for Joshua is because even if Joshua wins this fight, it has to be perfect. There cannot be a moment of hesitation from Anthony Joshua. He can't look mentally shot. He can't take a punch, really. If he takes a big punch from Jake Paul, if he gets hurt in any way by Jake Paul, if he doesn't absolutely ice Jake Paul within a few rounds of this 8-round scheduled bout, well then it really affects his credibility. All the things that have ever been said about him, he's a hype job, he's been coddled. He didn't really want to fight Deontay Wilder when they were both in their prime. He's just a big bodybuilder, as Tyson Fury loves to put it. Anyone who's ever doubted him will have absolute ability to do so. And so the fact that this is actually a sanctioned fight, it tells me that Anthony Joshua cannot be going in there or will not go in there and try to carry Jake Paul. Otherwise, it might as well just be an exhibition. If he does go in there and carry Jake Paul, my fear for him is that most people will not be aware that that's what he's doing. Reputationally, it would just cause serious damage. And like I say, I think the only way he comes out of this unscathed, reputationally, is by going in there and securing a clean knockout. Anthony Joshua can't do anything to boost how people view him as a boxer in this fight. All it can do is damage him unless he's punch perfect. He's fighting someone who realistically has nothing to lose and absolutely everything to gain. And that in itself can be dangerous. It can be risky. And given that Jake Paul has achieved so little, given that Anthony Joshua wants to remain relevant and credible, so it seems, because he has a couple of potentially big fights left, especially against Tyson Fury, why is he doing this? He doesn't want to jeopardize that, surely. Well, I can tell you exactly how I think he has rationalized this in his mind. The first thing is that he's going to get paid an absolute shed load of money. Around 50 million is what we're hearing. I've heard 50 million pounds, 50 million USD, but whatever happens, it's a significant amount of cash. Possibly will be one of his highest ever career paydays, possibly similar to what he'd make for a Tyson Fury fight. But for what? like 1% of the risk. I don't know how to put it in numerical form.
Promoter Eddie Hearn reflects on the strategic and financial sides of the matchup, outlining why the offer presented to Anthony Joshua is exceptionally hard to decline. Hearn explains that Joshua has already reached nearly every major milestone available in the heavyweight landscape. At this point in his career, the massive payday becomes a practical factor, providing a financial return that surpasses typical fights. Hearn presents the choice as a deliberate business move, noting that in boxing, strategic openings often merge with monetary motivations. For Joshua, the fight becomes less about obligation and more about using his stature to maximize earnings while staying visible, turning the moment into a mix of sport, spectacle, and financial intention.
Reported yesterday by the ring by Mike Coppinger that one's in the works and looking likely for December. What can you tell me?
Yeah, not yet. I mean, there has been conversations, obviously. I think it comes down to how true, they are. Jake Paul is that he actually wants to fight. I mean, he's a madman if he wants to fight. But for some reason, and he thinks he can beat AJ. And I have to be honest, like, we were going to have a run out in December over 8 rounds against a bloke you've never heard of. And we may end up having a run out against Jake Paul for a career high payday. I don't see how we can turn it down.
When I asked you about it a couple of days ago, you said that at that time you never really got into the financials. Have those been discussed now? Have you discussed the financial element?
Yeah, there has been some conversations around that, and it is, it's a huge amount of money. And I think AJ would be mad if he didn't do it, and I think he will do it if Jake Paul is genuine. We may wake up tomorrow with these people and they've announced another fight. Like, honestly, anything could happen. So I still can't get my head around the fact that this guy wants to challenge AJ. Listen, respect to him if it's true, but we shall see.
To end on that note, I spoke to Alfie Sharman earlier. He said that himself or DAZN have had no conversations about AJ potentially taking that fight. Obviously, AJ is exclusive to DAZN. What's the situation with regards to that? Because I know
apparently the fight's done. Obviously, it's not done because those conversations have to take place. I'm very confident that I can have some positive conversations with DAZN. Obviously, we'll be on a clock, but it's a 50-50.
Last one from me. I saw Chris McKenna tweeted that Anthony Joshua currently doesn't have a British Boxing Board of Control licence. Obviously, it's not unusual for someone who isn't fighting currently and is inactive to let it run out. But he would have to apply for one to face Jake Paul again. And then they'd have to approve a fight. Do you think that'd be a...
Former world champion David Haye reminds everyone of boxing's constant unpredictability. He cautions that even with Joshua widely favored, no outcome is secured once the opening bell echoes through the arena. Haye stresses that overlooking any opponent, no matter their history or experience, can trigger surprising turns. While recognizing that Jake Paul confronts a major test, Haye insists that seasoned fighters must always respect the abilities of anyone stepping into the ring. That very uncertainty fuels the tension surrounding the fight, ensuring that both the spectators and the fighters stay fully alert, invested, and cautious from start to finish.
It was only a couple of months ago that we were told it was really close, and then it was Jake and Tank, and now that's off for other reasons. Your initial reaction to the fact that December Miami might be on?
Yeah, jumping from Gervonta Davis all the way up to Anthony Joshua seems absurd. It doesn't seem like it's a reality.
Seems very Jake Paul.
It's same, but sometimes these crazy things. Who would have ever thought Francis Ngannou would get a shot against Tyson Fury? When we first started talking about it, it's like that's never going to happen. And when it did, we saw Tyson Fury have a very, very tough night, get knocked down and scrape through on points. Anything's possible in boxing. I think the chances of Jake Paul beating Anthony Joshua, I don't know. He's got a very, very low chance. I can't see any way that Jake Paul can win a boxing match with 10, 12-ounce gloves on with Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua, world champion, silver medalist, Olympic gold medalist, 2-time heavyweight champion. He's a top 10, top 5 in some people's arguments, heavyweight, and he hasn't gone that far over the hill. He's not Mike Tyson, nearly 60 years old. I can't see it happening, but if it can happen and AJ wants it, then obviously it's going to be a massive, massive payday as well as a massive spectacle. It would be an absolute crush box office numbers, and unfortunately for Jake, that will be potentially his last fight in boxing, if that.
That's it for today's video. Stick around, because the next one is just around the corner.